She's like, oh, your sound was on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Legal Tea. We're doing episode 16 of the Legal Tea. A little bit different. I have guests. I have friends. Yay. But we're here to talk about I think it's a really important subject to talk about during the season. Domestic abuse. And what it looks like. A lot of people associate it with physical, but it's not always that way. And so today's story our episode is brought to you based off, I think it was last week, wasn't it last week that Offset stormed the stage during Cardi B's performance to issue his apology about the situation. They've been dating for a while and married, have a baby, and she finally had enough because he's been cheating on her, and she finally had enough and said, I'm done. She left, and after she left, he started, kind of going off on social media. I saw one thing, he was like, well, forget it. Not saying that, that's not the F word he used, but he's like, F it, y'all won. I guess he's talked to some of his friends about it, so you have different celebrities weighing in and saying that she should take him back, like T.I. and The Game. And then last week when he went on stage wasn't she the first woman to headline that show, and he just took her moment away from her and made it about him. When I saw that, I was like, that's terrible. That's awful. That was my first reaction. Right. I started reading the comments, and the comments were like,
oh my God, it's so romantic.
Yes, that's so good. He really missed her. Or so, I'm like, no, I'll be mad.
Yeah.
I would be pissed off if that happened to me.
Because that would be almost like, for instance, since you all are attorneys, you getting some like attorney of the year, and then your husband, number one, bringing your personal life to your job. I couldn't imagine. I would be mortified.
Mortified. And have I introduced you all? We just jumped into it. Does anybody know who y'all are besides me? So we have here licensed therapist C. Anderson. Hey! And then we have attorney Adele Baker Underwood.
Yes, hey guys.
And she's a family law attorney. She works with domestic violence victims. And Ms. Anderson, she works with, your specialty is domestic violence.
Yep.
Yeah. So I really want to have this conversation. Here, we believe in staying in our lane, or as we say, operate in your realm of genius. Yep. This is not my realm of genius. I know I can recognize the importance of the conversation, but I'm not going to pretend to be an expert at this and know more than I know. Right. That's why I brought my friends with me. So that's why we're here. So great, we have Rashonda. Thank you. Hey, Ro, how are you doing? But yeah, so now we can jump back into the conversation. So yeah, like you said, just coming to my job. I think that's a really good point. Bringing our personal business into our work environment. That is embarrassing because no matter what goes on at home, we like to keep that at home because that's where it should be, right? It's private. And then just taking away the moment and making it about him when it's really about her. Exactly. So I know my first impression, and I know what the comments were saying about how cute it was, how romantic it was, how people are salty, women are salty because they don't have anybody that loves them like that. But I guess my question to you is that love?
So let's talk about when I first saw what happened. First of all, when Cardi left, I was really proud of her. I would say that I was really, really proud of her for saying this is not the type of love that I want, right? So a lot of times we hear people say, love is unconditional. And one of the things that I always tell people is no, like my love needs to be conditional. And that means that my love is not hurtful. Okay. My love is not abusive. My love is forgiving. My love is stable. My love,
I like these conditions.
Yeah, my love is non-offensive. So we need to have those standards when we are loving someone, because love is a verb. That's an action that we're doing, right? So what he did was totally about him, because this is the dynamic of that scenario is the audience, right, is going to put pressure on the situation so that she feels compelled to say, I forgive you, I take you back, I accept you, right? That's a form of manipulation. So that's why I find public proposals to be manipulative.
Because they can have them
Right.
act against their interests.
Yes. So if we're at a baseball game, or if we're at your family's house and we're having this big dinner and everybody's there and you propose to me, there's a part of me that feels compelled to say I'll marry you even if inside I really don't want to. And I think some men do that. Some men do that. And I'm not saying that all men that make a public proposal have some sort of, manipulative trait or behavior, but I'm just saying that is what the situation is, right? So when Offset comes on stage and has these flowers or whatever that spelled out, like I think it says "Take me back" or something like that. First of all, cheating is usually serial, so it happens multiple times. It's usually never just one time.
Right.
The second part of that is, when you have committed that sort of infraction in the marriage, right? Change is not overnight. Change is not, I messed up, bro. Like,
I never
my
do it
bad.
again.
I ain't gonna do it no more.
Right.
Cheating is the symptom. Cheating is not the problem. Cheating is leading to the cheating. Whether that means he has some sort of insecurity, there's some unmet needs in the marriage, but the cheating is a symptom of something else that's going on in the relationship. So just because you apologize doesn't mean that things are changed.
And they probably hadn't even been addressed.
No.
Or recognized, acknowledged, or anything.
No. So when someone comes to you, and this is not just with cheating, but with anything, the way I know that you've changed is by your actions. And so you being so selfish as to come up on the stage while I'm performing, boo, you ain't changed none.
You still doing that
You
same
still
behavior.
doing the same thing.
Same selfish behavior.
Yeah. To that type of unhealthy behavior. Oh my God, he is so romantic. This is Cardi, girl, he changed.
But why do we think that? Why are we? Because there were a lot of women and men that were applauding that behavior.
Yeah.
What is it about how we are as a society that recognizes or thinks that's love versus manipulation or abuse?
Because that's what we're socialized to believe, right? So when you think about your first introduction into offense and apology is as a little kid, as a child. So, she hit you, say you're sorry. Okay, that fixes everything, right? No matter if I'm still bleeding, there's still pain, I'm still, emotionally hurt by what you did. And that's one of the reasons why when I work with children, you don't force kids to apologize, because they have to understand what that truly means. That means that I'm going to change the behavior, or I did it, unintentionally, or I did it purposefully, and I understand that I was wrong for doing that. So when we associate apology with instant reconciliation, we expect that on all levels, right?
Right.
Even at work, it's like, well, I said I was sorry for being late, but I was late again
the next day. Right.
So that behavior hasn't changed. So that's one of the ways that we're desensitized to our own pain and someone else being able to actually reconcile the situation.
That was really, really, really good. Hey, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Now, Adele, you've seen the video, right?
Yes.
What were your first thoughts when you saw the video?
My first reaction was, and not to say that Cardi B and Offset are in a domestic violence relationship, but my first thought when I saw that was abuser behavior.
And why were you thinking that?
Because for him to do something like that, it automatically in my mind triggered manipulation and control, which are on the cycle. It's part of the cycle of abuse when it comes to domestic violence. Manipulating the situation, controlling the situation, and putting pressure on the victim to essentially take you back and do what you want to do. Using those outside forces to come in and
influence her
right
against her best interest. And I know that you work with the Family Sunshine Center, which here we're in Alabama, so here that's the local. Do they do more than domestic violence?
Domestic violence and sexual assault.
And sexual assault, which is also abuse. So you work with a lot of different abuse victims. And so this is one of the things is this common behavior? Do you see this a lot with the people that come in to get help?
Yes. Like I said, it's part of the cycle of abuse. It starts small and it just escalates from there. And abusers like to have control all the time, and you don't always know the reason for that control. It might not be visible to a person like me and you sitting here. We might not know what the reason is that he's needing that control, but it's part of why he does what he does. He can take advantage and take control of the victim, so he has some type of he has more control in his life by controlling that person that seems lesser than him.
And it does make sense, and that's one of the things that I want to make sure that people know, because a lot of times they see that control as physical. They use someone using physical force to assert their control over someone, but it's not always physical. Yeah. I know that Kerry Washington and Serena Williams are part of a campaign that talks about financial abuse, because that's another form of abuse. That's another form of control and keeping people in situations that they don't want to be in, or making them act in a way that's against their interests. And so that's why we really want to have this conversation, just so that people can know, if you can recognize if you're in a situation. And that's one of the things I want to tell you. What we're doing right now, we're not providing advice, we're providing information. So if you have questions about it, we really urge you to seek a professional help in your area, to get more information about what the options are available in your area and who you can talk to help you in your specific circumstances. But what we really want to do is just put some information and shine some light on the circumstances and the situation, so that some people can be aware. Because a lot of people are not aware, and we knew that by the comments. Yay! Ooh. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I used to work with the Family Sunshine Center. That's actually how I got started in this work, and it really opened my eyes and changed my life. And I realized that there were some things that I had experienced and I had seen in my own life, growing up, that made me more susceptible to that kind of situation as a teenager. And so what Adele was saying was absolutely true about that power and control piece, because that's really at the core of the dynamic. And domestic violence or domestic abuse isn't just with intimate partners. It can be parent to child, child to parent, elder abuse, sibling abuse. It can also be between two people that live in the same domicile. So roommates. So something that she mentioned was very, very important, that need to control, and how it's not always physical. So it can either be financial. So things like, I'm not going to give you access to the money that we have, or controlling the bank account, what goes in, what goes out, taking your credit cards, ruining your credit, taking state issued benefits like SNAP benefits, Social Security, and not allowing the individual to have access to that money. It could be sexual. It could be sexual coercion, meaning I know you don't want to have sex with me, but if you don't, this will happen or this will not happen. There are plenty of married couples that where there's rape, involved in the marriage. And just because you're in a committed relationship doesn't mean you can't be raped in that relationship. There's also the psychological and the emotional abuse. And the psychological piece comes in where that abuser starts to cause the other individual to question their own mental sanity and their own ability to see reality.
How do they do that? What does that look like?
So one of the buzzwords lately is gaslighting. The term comes from a movie back in the 50s where a woman was caused to believe that her house was haunted. So her lover was doing this to her to get her to end up committing her and getting her money. So they'll do things like move their personal items and put them back later, or say, I didn't say that to you, or I didn't hit you. What are you talking about? I'm really concerned about your mental well-being. Or it can be emotional. So degrading the individual, causing them to second guess in their preying on their insecurities. Things as simple as moving the goalposts. I talk a lot about all of these non-physical signs in my book, Love Taps. And so saying, if you did this, I wouldn't be this person to you, right? So then the victim does it, and now it's, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't be this person to you. So maybe he comes home, dinner is ready, and she thinks that finally he's going to accept me and to treat me like he loves me, like a person. And then he says, but you don't have on lingerie, but there's no dessert, but the house is dirty, right?
Right.
So he's constantly moving that goalpost.
Says he wants one thing and then you do it,
right.
and then next that's not good enough.
Right.
There's something else in addition to that. It's never going to be good
It's
enough.
never going to be good enough, because what that does is cause her to continue to believe that she's the problem and he's not. So she says, well, if I could just do X, Y, and Z, then the marriage would work. My family would be, you know, a family if I could just change me. So it takes the responsibility and accountability from the abuser. And I'm using him and her because about 90% of abusive relationships are male abusers to females. But women in same-sex couples absolutely experience, you know, the same things.
Okay. Wow, I think this is a really good conversation that we're having. A lot of great information. If someone finds themselves, what are the remedies? And that's why I have Attorney Baker Underwood here. I want to talk about if someone finds themselves in this situation and they want to get out, and what are some of the remedies that they have afforded to them?
So most people think that if you're in an abusive relationship, you need to call the police and you need to get them arrested. But that's not always the best route to take.
Okay.
And of course, you can call the police and you can press charges and go that route. But there are civil remedies that don't involve the police department. You can always go to your local courthouse or your local like a legal aid type thing, or any attorney if you have the funds to do that. Which in these types of situations, you usually don't have the money. But there's a protection order. It's in most states they have something. The name will vary, but it's a protection order, and it's essentially a restraining order for domestic violence relationships.
The PFA.
Right. That's what we call it here, the PFA. But the relationship for that has to be, you have to have a qualifying relationship, and that is intimate partner relationships, like husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, dating relationship. If you have children together, if you live together, it can be family members. This also can qualify for elder abuse if it's an elderly person that's being manipulated, but that takes on a different spin there. There are different qualifications to qualify for an elder abuse petition. But through that protection order, it keeps your abuser away from you a specified amount of feet. You can't come by the house, your job, anywhere that you frequent regularly. The abuser is not allowed to come there. The petition can also prevent him from calling you, harassing you.
Like sending notes. Maybe he can't call or come by, but maybe he's like sending notes in the mail to you. Could it like prevent
it can cut all contact.
And third party.
Yes.
Yeah, because
that's an option to add that there too. Because a lot of times abusers use their family members to... They think, oh, I have this protection order against me, so I can't do it, but I'm going to get my mom to call her, or I'm going to get my brother to stop by her house. And the protection order also allows you to add a third party that's not actually in the relationship to that, if that person's being used to perpetrate the abuse.
Okay.
That order can also get the person put out of the house. If you live together, the judge can evict the person from that house until the situation's finalized. You're going to have to go to court for this.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question. You get a protection order. How long is the order for, and what are the next steps after you file a protection order? Like, what is it? How long does it take to get one? So if I go see someone and say I need a protection order, is it going to take weeks for me to get a protection order?
No. So in Alabama, once you file the petition, they do an ex parte order, meaning you don't have to go before the judge. The abuser doesn't have to go. The judge just reads whatever you submit to him, and he's going to decide, oh, I think she needs this order, and I'm going to grant it. And most times the judge is going to grant it, better safe than sorry. And then down the line, you're going to have a hearing where the abuser gets to come. If he wants to get an attorney, he can come, you can come, and you both go before the judge and present your case. And the judge will then make a ruling. He can deny the petition, like take away the ex parte and say you don't need this anymore. And then the time limit that he can put on it, some people do it 3 months. Some judges do a year. Some judges do, until I say otherwise. So it's into perpetuity. You have it forever. It just depends on the circumstances of your case and the severity of the abuse that you're going through.
And why would someone want to go the civil route rather than the criminal route, rather than calling the police out? What do those circumstances look like?
Okay. So It's a lot of different factors that can factor into it, and I think the one that I see the most is when police respond. Like if there's an active domestic situation and you call the police and the police respond. In a lot of cases, the police can't tell who's the abuser because if you fight back, then
you both have to go.
Right. And you also don't want to just sit there and get beat on. So your instinct most times is to fight back. And it's a terrible thing when the police come and arrest both of them. Now you have a victim that's in jail for defending herself.
Yeah, and that re-traumatizes the person as well. I used to go as a victim's advocate when I was working with the same organization. And so a lot of times both parties would, and there are situations where two people just don't know how to communicate and there's no power and control and they fight, like that's what they do, right? But in instances where there is that power and control, like Adele was saying, that when you have someone that has called the police for help, right, to come and rescue me, right, I'm being harmed, or the perpetrator goes, oh, you want to call the police? Okay. I've seen men scratch themselves.
Kind of like thin line between love
yes.
and hate when she's hitting herself with the oranges.
Scratch themselves because when the police come, if there's any visible marks, they have to arrest. So, you know, it can mean retaliation, you know, family. And I can speak personally. When I was in a relationship in college, I had bruise marks, scratches. He was arrested on campus, and the next day I got calls from his family harassing me. So there is so much fear, you know, wrapped up, and that's why when people say, well, she needs to just leave, and it's not that simple.
I have a question for you, Adele. As far as the getting the protective order, I know we're talking about bruises and things of that nature. Can you get a protective order if someone is in a if there's a non-physical threat? Let's say the abuse is emotional or financial. Can protective orders be issued in those circumstances? Yes.
However, it's much more difficult to prove financial abuse or mental or verbal abuse. It's harder for a judge to be convinced that this is a threat to you, that you qualify for this because of that. But there's a remedy for it. It's just more difficult to prove to a judge.
Okay, so most of the protective orders that you see granted are for physical abuse?
Yes.
Have you seen any granted for any other type of abuse?
I have. It's very rare that I see it happen, but it has. I will say it just depends on the judge that you have. All the judges have different personalities and different life experiences, and that causes them to rule differently. So it just depends.
And I think that's because the abuse other than physical is really just now getting attention drawn to it.
Absolutely. And I think that more professionals are understanding that it's not just a matter of, you know, bruises and hitting, that there is a lot of the psychological and the emotional, you know, harassment, stalking, those types of behaviors where I've not touched you, but I am making your life a living hell.
Like the kids in the back seat, they won't stop looking at me. You know, you can't put their hands on me, but I'm just gonna stare you down. Right? Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you, but you got your finger right here staring me down.
Exactly. So when you think about people that have that sort of sociopathy or narcissism or that type of personality disorder, they will go above and beyond to stalk and harass a person. It could be something. I had one woman where there had been trackers put on her vehicle. He had somehow tapped into her cable network, could see the shows that she was watching. He knew who was in her house. He knew when she had company, when she didn't. He could control, like, it was horrific.
That sounds really terrible. But I'm not touching you though.
Right. And so you can imagine I'm going before a judge with this type of like sci-fi type, you know, scenario, and the judge is like, this doesn't happen in real life. Where's your evidence? You know, and you know, it's horrible. The psychological piece of it, you know, I can't imagine, what it would be like to have your life be, you go outside and you're afraid every day.
Every day.
And no one believes you or no one can do anything about it.
Because they can't see any evidence of why you should be afraid.
Yeah. I went to one of the conferences for abuse, the Hope Alliance conference with the organization that started the Family Justice Center in California. And there was an attorney that was speaking as one of the breakout sessions, and she said that she continues to be stalked 20 years later, and there's nothing the legal system is able to do about it. He's been in jail, everything, and he continues to
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could not imagine that. I could not imagine not having. I mean, again, that goes back to control. Being wary of where you go and who you're with because someone is stalking you.
Right. And also being aware, because one of the things that is most helpful is if we don't get into those relationships to begin with, right? So taking the preventative measures so that we don't find ourselves.
And that's what I wanted to add. That's my next thing. What signs can we look for to avoid these type of, like, what type of first date, second date scenarios, questions should we be asking to make sure that we don't find ourselves in this type of situation?
Okay, I'm gonna be like super real right now. This is what you do.
Super real.
Super real. This is what you do. Two things. When you meet a person and you get their whole entire name, okay, yes, we can talk. You go to your courthouse, the county courthouse, and look up his name, her name on the public records computer.
Yes.
Every county, I don't care where you live, every county has one. You need to see, does he have a history of abuse or harassment or aggression, or a big sign of personality disorder is running away from your financial obligations. So does he have a trail of lawsuits, financial lawsuits? So you can Google, know the person that you're about to see. If you see anything that is a little disturbing, cut your losses. You're better safe than sorry.
Before you even get emotionally involved.
It
don't take it like that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to tell you why, the biological piece behind that. The second part is a date is that's an interview. That's a job interview. So when they come in, they're going to be dressed. They're going to present their best self. That is their representative. So just be very observant. Allow them to talk. How are they treating the wait staff? Be late for your first date. How do they respond to you being 10 or 15 minutes late? Is it, oh, it's okay. Well, I've already, late for this reservation. So how are they responding to when things aren't going their way, to any kind of disturbance? How are they treating the wait staff? Send your food back to see how they respond. So this is a test. You don't have any stake in the game. There's no dog in the fight or no skin, so to speak. So this is an opportunity for you to see who you're really dealing with. And I always tell people, I'm not judging when I say this, but be very careful about having sex, because what sex does emotionally and biologically, it releases chemicals in your body that are naturally in your brain to bond you to the person that you're having sex with. So one of the things that Cardi B said yesterday in an article was that she missed Offset's D.
Yep. I saw
and
that.
That's because they've had sexual relations and they are tied in that way. So it's not always a great idea for that purpose. Now, I'm not saying anything morally, but I'm saying for that purpose to engage in any type of sexual behavior, because then you feel, really
You're
connected
to that
and
person.
Invested in that person, and you don't even know them.
I have no idea.
So when something does happen, it's, benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to let that, slide. And it's like,
And with that, I would say trust your instincts, because 9 times out of 10 you feel something off.
Yeah.
But you don't trust it. You're just like,
right.
I'm just going to keep going. That's nothing. That's so little. That's petty.
Yeah.
But then a few months later, that pettiness is showing up more and more often.
Right.
And so trust yourself. Trust your
And
instinct.
don't let charm blind you, because you know the first date, like, they don't have to be outright rude or coming off any type of way, but like, you can quantify, well, I wasn't late, but you know, it's okay. I waited for you. You know, they're charming, but you can't let that blind you from the stuff that's underneath the charm.
And a lot of times that same piece, they will purposely listen to everything you say. That's what narcissists, that's what sociopaths do. They want to know everything about you, everything that you say, so that they can become that. And someone that is narcissistic will talk the entire time, will tell you all about them. Whatever you say, bring it back to them. And so those are two very important signs to play a part into. And don't give all your business away on the first date. He doesn't need to know where you live.
Yeah.
Meet at the restaurant.
Yes.
He doesn't need to know where you work. You know, so we give too much of our personal lives to people
That we don't know.
that we don't have. We don't know from a can of paint. Don't know from Adam.
Right.
I'm just really trusting. I know I used to be unnaturally trusting of everyone, and I've since grown out of that. Since I went to law school, I've grown out of that. But yeah, it's just so easy to want to trust someone and give them the benefit of that. Like, I want to know, I want to think you're a good person,
Because we think that people are inherently good, and it's actually the other way around. It takes every day we make the choice to do what's right.
Right.
So that's not our flesh's natural inclination to be this great, person. So just because someone looks nice, right? Is dressed a certain way, $1 million smile, nice car. There's a story. This guy, he was actually like a serial con artist. And he looked great up in Maryland. You can research him. He was finally arrested, but he stole so much money and ruined so many women's lives because he was fine. He was sexy and had money, or portrayed this life that was attractive. And so, I'm talking about blind.
That's terrible.
There was another story. I read and watch movies all day. There's another story. A woman, these dating apps. No.
No dating apps?
Especially if they're free.
Okay.
Free, like Tinder, Grindr, Plenty of Fish. No.
Why?
Because
I want
crazy.
somebody.
Like the sick people, just to get some rocks off, will find someone, tie you up, and put you in the basement.
Or in the basement. Okay.
So if you have to do a dating app, do the one that is paid, right? Because if I just want a quick thrill, I'm not gonna put money into that. But this woman found a guy on a dating app. They met up, went to a club, they videoed him. Oh, we popping, drinks. He had she had a really nice car. Go back to a hotel, and when she woke up, she came to the next morning because she had been beaten severely.
What?
The room trashed, her purse, car stolen. Yeah. And this guy, he looked normal. They had a great time, she said, at the club, had talked a couple of times before they met up. And he almost beat her to death. So no, when it comes to your life, no, you can't trust people.
Oh, goodness. What's Karen say? We'll say, woo, walk in, walk out. I think that's what it says. I can't see. I'm about to get my iPad. I'm like, wait a minute, what does that say? Don't judge me in my eyesight. I know I have on glasses right now and still can't see.
I can't see either, so
Yeah,
I see the colors.
It's so small. Wait a minute. Let me see what they're saying. What she say? She says, "What did I walk into?" That was not what I said at all.
No, it was not. Walk in, walk out.
I had an extra tidbit to add for the non-physical. If you can't get a PFA or protection order, you can always go to. Everybody has a domestic violence shelter, and they all have different resources like counseling or putting you up in a shelter, giving you a safety plan, giving you tips on how to avoid the situation or how to get out of the situation. So you can go forward without that on you.
Okay.
If you're at the point where you want to leave, there's resources to help you.
Okay.
And it's something that people, you know, the safety plan piece, you know, you don't have to wake up and leave tomorrow.
Right.
But there are people that are knowledgeable and that can help you plan your escape.
Yes.
Okay.
I also detail that in the book.
So tell us more about this book, where they can get this book.
Oh, so the book is called Love Taps, How to Know the Red Flags and How to Escape Safely. And it's in Barnes & Noble and also on Amazon.com.
All right. And for people that are just coming in, give me your name again so they know who.
C. Anderson, C.E. Anderson. And you can find me at C. Anderson Live on Twitter, IG, and C. Anderson on Facebook. You're welcome to follow me.
Awesome. And what about you, Attorney Baker Underwood?
I don't have a book, although I want to get there one day. So my firm, we do mostly criminal and juvenile work, but I have a heart for domestic violence, so I do family law for domestic violence victims. That being said, if you need family law and it's not domestic violence, I can probably find you someone who can do your case. But domestic violence victims, I'm located in Montgomery, Alabama. Our website is thebulawfirm.com. It's THEBU lawfirm.com. Also on Facebook as the BU Law Firm. It's the Baker Underwood Law Firm. But yeah, even if you just have questions or you want to know more about how to get out of your situation or what resources you have for your specific situation.
Or even if it's domestic violence, because some people say, well, he only did this once. I don't know if it's really...
One time is enough.
Yeah.
One time is
Absolutely.
enough.
Absolutely.
If you are at the point where you want to seek help, even if you're not at the point where you want to leave, if you just want to know what you can do or what your options are moving forward,
Right.
you can always contact me. Here in Montgomery, we have the Family Sunshine Center and we have One Place Family Justice Center, and they both offer free services for domestic violence victims and offer resources to let you know exactly what we're just talking about, what you can do, what's the next step.
And if you're not local, you can definitely probably do a Google search and see what options are available, what attorneys are available, what resources are available to you, so you can get that help that you need, so you can ask these questions that you want the answers to.
Good.
Ladies, thank you again
Thank
so
you for
much.
that. It was a pleasure being
Yes.
here with both of you and meeting you, Adele, as
Yes,
well.
So that's all we have for this episode of The Legal Tea. If you like it, you know what to do. Rate, subscribe, share it with your friends, right? All right. That's all we have. Take care.